Welcome to all of you once again, I give the floor to Ambassador Zemene. You have the floor, Madam.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Jan Boek, the chair of the board of directors of CERS, and Mr. Nicholas Corney, director of the institute, and Madam Nadia Karura, General Secretary for your institute. And then also I would like to welcome all participants, I think families of the university, and also probably young diplomats that are serving in various missions in Brussels. So I'm very happy to see probably students from many parts of the world, and it gives me pleasure to see also my compatriots. I see faces I know, and also few names that I suspect might be Ethiopians. So this is a pleasure. I would like to congratulate the university for the progress that it had made over the years, and that it had given a chance to many countries, many students coming from many countries, to have this important, I believe, field of knowledge for our world. I myself was a student of international relations and political science, and I have pursued through that direction by diversifying my education through a wide range of development, matters that are related to economic diplomacy. So I am honored and privileged to be here to address this very important body, and I would like to thank the leadership of the university for considering us to be here. And I'm not the first one. I found out that my predecessor, Ambassador Teshome Toga, was also in your university, and I'm glad that we are already a family in many ways, with the students that I see and with the links that you have with the embassy. So let me take you directly to my talk this afternoon, late afternoon. I will be focusing on principles and strategies because, foreign policy and its making could be diverse, could be vast, but I am sure the audience will benefit from what are the actual makeups of the foreign policy making of Ethiopia, and what does it mean that Ethiopia is following this approach. So I think it will give us a very good backward-forward linkages on what we're talking about, because I believe, I'm sure you will agree with me, foreign policy has always changes and continuities. And with these, which ones are the important ones that we are upholding through, I would say, the centuries or the decades. So this is the approach I'll be following. I want to give you a very interesting account as an introductory part. It would touch upon a little bit of history of the country because it's, Professor, I am humbled by your reference to an African superpower. I wouldn't consider ourselves in that way, but I believe Ethiopia is a very important country, both in our continent and I believe in the world. So I'll give you a little touch of the foreign policy making by relating it to our very colorful history. So as an ancient, this is my introduction, as an ancient civilization, Ethiopia has been, reaching out to the world around or even beyond 1 century AD. During the Aksumite period, there are very much colorful stories and stories depicted in a very, very clear way with an evidence that we have been reaching out to the Red Sea, across the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, the Indian subcontinent, and even to as far as the Far East. And there were many issues of interest of the then Ethiopia and its rulers, why it had to reach out. It was located in a very strategic area in the Red Sea and its vicinities. It had, an early civilization with a strong government that went out to exchange important economic issues. As you know, many of the, even in the, the Roman city-states, most of the diplomatic approach started out with trade links. So trade was significant in our links with the outside world. Of course, technology and, finding, precious things that would, match with the way of life of those times were very critical. And in this, I would like to entice you to look into Dr. Verna Kerb's recent book titled Medieval Ethiopia's Diplomatic Mission. I got the audio, an interview with the BBC from my colleague in the embassy, and I was really fascinated with the way that Ethiopia was from early days working on sending emissaries around the world to the Italian states, to the Middle East, and to the Far East. And the mix was also very interesting. There were Muslim imams and Christian monks mixed, or Christian priests mixed, that were sent out to these missions, whether it's to the Middle East or Europe. And this really shows the richness of the culture of Ethiopia in terms of receiving the Abrahamic, the 3 Abrahamic religions at a very, very early stage. As you know, Ethiopia has received Christianity, Islam, and Judaism very, very early, I would say. So these had also created the tenets of tolerance among the society, and has also had an important contribution to our foreign policy making, I believe. And I will give you one very interesting example where the Middle Eastern countries, wherever you go in my career, whenever I meet a Middle Eastern official or the society, the people, they mention about the first hijrah. The first hijrah is where Ethiopia had given a sanctuary for the first persecutions of the Muslim groups. And you find this very example I mentioned to you in our Tigray region, where the famous Mary of Zion is situated, where the Ark of Covenant is expected or thought to be there. But at the same time, you'll find a very ancient church called Al-Najash. It is believed that might have been established during the first hijrah. And another important makeup of the foreign policy making is, I've noted the geostrategic position of Ethiopia along the Red Sea. It had been very outgoing due to that, trying to prove the world, get things, but at the same time, it was also challenged by external incursions. In all of its history, it had always had a problem of external incursions due to its strategic position and due to the fact that it is situated in a very important position. So this has created a very strong, I would say, leadership in Ethiopia that focuses highly on vigilance and also protecting the sovereignty and the national integrity early on. If you have read Fukuyama, been a long time since I read it, he mentions few countries as lone countries, and he puts Ethiopia as one of them, and of course there are others. So, this, socio-cultural makeup is very, very important to understand Ethiopia. I will also encourage you to read a book. It's my favorite book. I try to refer to it frequently by Professor Baharu Zewde. Baharu Zewde is an Ethiopian historian, and he has written a book called History of Modern Ethiopia. It talks about the 19th century to about the beginning of the 20th century. Mainly talks about emperors Johannes, Theodros, Menelik, and beginning of Haile Selassie's time. But his book is not only about emperors. He talks about the various nationalities in Ethiopia, the colorful history that we have advanced over the years through the challenges and also through the achievements. So I will just have put this as a cursory note for us to continue our discourse for the main part. So in talking about the major pillars of Ethiopia's foreign policy, I would like to take you through three important points. The first one is about our focus on multilateralism and collective security. And the second one is the primacy that we give to Africa and Pan-Africanism. And the third point is our focus. It's related with multilateralism, but interdependence. So these are the three important, I would say, pillars of our foreign policy makings. And I believe I've raised earlier about change and continuity. Here, I will note to you that these three have always been continuing in our foreign policy making, regardless of in whichever situation you put Ethiopia. So talking about the multilateralism and collective security approach, Ethiopia, as you might already know, is the only Black nation that was a founding member of the League of Nations in the 1920s. And then also, of course, its successor, the United Nations, also a founding member. And in that, it has early on has advocated for the importance of collective security, of ascertaining peace to the world. This was a very critical tenet that through our history I have tried to mention in my introduction, that it has also tried to advocate for this with like-minded countries. And in this, I will mention one very important contribution Ethiopia has had done in its own way, is being from early on a very important part of the United Nations peacekeeping operations around the world. We have one of the largest contingents that we are contributing to this process, and we had blue helmet women and men as far back as the 1950s during the Korean situation, and in Congo, Rwanda, many others that we have tried to take part in peacekeeping, and with an impeccable record and discipline. So this is one thing that we have tried in the little way we can to take part in the multilateral approach. And successive governments have had a very keen interest in this collective security, and all successive three regimes since the United Nations was formed have worked to be a non-permanent member of the Security Council. And in this, from 1967 to 1968, from 1989 to 1990, and recently from 2017 to 2018, Ethiopia has served as a non-permanent member of the Security Council. So it has contributed its share in what? There are 3 members of the non-security council, the United Nations Security Council that are non-permanent, and then from the 3 African nations, these 3 African nations that regularly change every 2 years are there not to protect their national interest alone. Of course, every nation will grab that situation to promote its national interest, but it is to promote African interest within the collective security system. So we are honored to have had a chance to serve in that way. It would be remiss of me if I do not mention that our contribution, especially in our region, through the UNISFA, which is a unique force that was situated between the Sudan and South Sudan, when the South Sudan was born as the youngest nation in 2011, the 2 sides have picked only Ethiopia to be part of the UN peacekeeping mission, and we are still serving there. We have had a large contingent with UNAMID, which is now substantially reducing. It has served for a number of years, and also UNIMIS, which is based in South Sudan. Also, another unique approach that Ethiopia has taken part in is that the story of peacekeeping operations. Peacekeeping operations are led by the United Nations, but the maiden peacekeeping operation that was created to ascertain peace and security in Somalia did not have enough support from the United Nations, so it has ended up as an AMISOM force, and Ethiopia is still serving in ascertaining peace and security in Somalia within the African Union framework within AMISOM. And in this respect, maybe when I come to the Horn of Africa, I can mention our also contribution with like-minded nations to avert the challenge of extremism and terrorism. So these are a few points just to provoke you about Ethiopia's principled position to adhere to multilateralism and collective security. Then I will mention to you also, before I wrap up this part, Ethiopia has also been at the early stage a member of the non-aligned movement that started in the 1950s during the Bandung Conference. It was only natural for Ethiopia with its long-standing diplomatic history that it wanted, as always, to engage with the East and the West as long as it meets its national interest. So at the heights of the Cold War, Ethiopia has, as much as possible, tried to allude to what the principles of the non-aligned movements were, and this is a tenet that we still follow as much as we can. I say as much as we can because we had been a full-fledged, a very successful empire in the past. We are not that, everybody knows. Now Ethiopia is a least developed country, and of course, you know, the political leverages around the world. So regardless of that, we uphold to a principled position that we have been adhering to over the years. Coming to my continent, to my beloved continent, Africa, I would like to mention in this that our leaders were very much focused on bringing Africa together. I noted to you when we were in the League of Nations and in the United Nations, unfortunately, most of our brothers and sisters in Africa were under colonial yoke. So the leaders of Ethiopia were on the forefront to fight colonialism. And in that respect, also they had a vision beyond colonialism. They were thinking of bringing political independence economic integration, and prosperity to the continent. I think it is very natural for Ethiopia to think in a multilateral way while it was serving or taking part in the United Nations, but also thinking of its continent. I would appreciate and think the European Union was also established in that way, of course, economic interest and others, but I believe peace and security might have been the most important factor as well to bring the European Union together, and which is, I believe, a shining example in the world in terms of regional integration. We look up to how the European Union is faring in Africa. Then in 1963, Ethiopia was one of the founding nations of the Organization of the African Unity. It had three purposes. The first purpose was to fight the remaining vestiges of colonization and apartheid. And the second one was to promote unity and solidarity among African nations. And the third one was to create economic prosperity and development and gradual integration of the continent. So these were the dreams of our founding fathers. And in this, for those times, Ethiopia has made tremendous contribution in all successive regimes to uphold the integrity and the political independence of the continent. It is a well-recorded fact that Ethiopia has fought apartheid with South African brothers and sisters. It has been a staunch supporter of Namibia's independence, Zimbabwe, and many others. So this is a very colorful history that we pride ourselves in. And also we have benefited tremendously from the support that we gained when the Organization of African Unity was established. And then I think the organization has transformed itself in 2003 to the African Union. It was a very colorful moment, and also where Ethiopia has contributed meaningfully to this transition. And this was the time where the Africa we want, the motto, the Africa we want, was created, and the Agenda 2063 was unfolded to strengthen infrastructural linkages, strengthen economic viability of the continent, and also strengthen political independence. So this is another milestone in Ethiopia's work through the African Union. It has made its own contributions, and it has also had benefited a lot from the support from all its brothers and sisters, and the founding fathers. When we call the founding fathers of the African Union, the Organization of African Unity, we always also remember Emperor Haile Selassie and his contribution. His statue was erected just recently in the compound of the African Union after many, many decades. And then the last point I wanted to mention to you, of course, I will talk to you about the IGAD, our regional organization, when I talk about the Horn of Africa, is the importance of interdependence. On the importance of interdependence, we believe that we have been from early on conscious of the importance of globalization, and we believe that we can benefit from partnerships, exchange of knowledge, exchange of trade, exchange of technology, finance. So we've been very much focused on exchanging ideas, exchanging cooperation and support, and we have benefited from the support development cooperation that was extended by many, many countries around the world, including Belgium. By the way, we have a very colorful also history with Belgium. It has more than 100 years history, and it's always something that we cherish, and we value Ethiopia has always been looking for technology transfer, and Belgium gives a special gift to Ethiopia, and that is knowledge. The strongest cooperation that we have with Belgium is the scholarships, and then you can imagine how the people-to-people contact will be flourishing, and then how all these students that have studied in Belgium will be our ambassadors in linking us together. Of course, it will do the same to others here. Ethiopian Airlines is an example of interdependence, we believe. It used to say, as its motto is going to great lengths to please. Then recently it was saying, it was taking its motto as bringing Africa together. I don't know what the latest is. It's a very, very savvy and a strong airline, as you can imagine. Under the COVID, many airlines were forced to close, to go bankrupt, and face a number of problems. The Ethiopian Airlines was not only connecting Africa, it is reaching, its destination is more than 100. I forgot exactly how many countries, but it's reaching almost all over the world. It has the youngest fleets that an airline has. It was mainly a Boeing connected through its history airline. Now it's coming to Airbus as well as coming to Europe. It has a fantastic cargo destination that manages perishables. And the story with the time we are in is fascinating. The leadership of the Ethiopian Airlines were very keen in transforming along with the COVID challenge. And what they have done was they've changed their fleet into a cargo system at a very, very early stage. It means by just pulling out the seats and making every craft to be a cargo sector. And it has made a great surge, both for Ethiopia and for many around the world, especially the flower business was run beautifully with the Ethiopian Airlines around the world, including its destinations in various locations in Belgium, in Europe. And I am very proud to mention that this airline has not laid off a single employee. It is in good shape compared to the situation where we are in. And this was the early entry. I'm not saying the cargo system is as thriving now for Ethiopian Airlines as it is, because many airlines are following that footstep. And there are many wise airlines now. So there are many in the business. But I would say its link in bringing Africa together was fantastic. I am very happy to note that many of my brothers and sisters that take Ethiopian Airlines never take it as an Ethiopian Airlines. They take it as their own airlines. And I always think that the Ethiopian Airlines has moved ahead in diplomacy. It has moved ahead the foreign ministry in creating this real link. And the latest addition is that I am very happy to see there are crews as well from the continent. The crews are so diverse depending wherever the airline is flying. I'll keep my time and I'll move to the principles of our foreign policy. I'll quickly read them because these are very formal issues. As you know, when you try to see the principles of your foreign policy, you would definitely take them from the international tenets. So we have this in our constitution of the latest constitution that we have, the 1995 constitution. It inculcates the major international principles for peaceful coexistence, protection of peoples and human rights. So promoting policies of foreign relations based on the protection of national interest and respect for the sovereignty of a country, promoting mutual respect for national sovereignty and equality if states and non-interference of states and non-interference in the international affairs of a state, to ensure that the foreign relations and policies of the country are based on mutual interests and equality of states, as well as the international agreements promote the interests of Ethiopia, to observe international agreements which ensure respect for Ethiopia's sovereignty and are not contrary to the interest of its people. I'm making benefits of the beautiful weather. I'm outside, that's why my paper was about to fly. And to forge and promote ever-growing economic union and fraternal relations of people with Ethiopia's neighbors and other African countries, and to seek and support peaceful solutions to international disputes. These are the major points inculcated in our constitution, and I think many nations would have something similar in their constitution. So, having said this, the major strategies of our foreign policy, I'm talking about those that are transient, that are not frequently changing, are, of course, some of them are, but I believe they will continue for a very long time. The first one is peace, diplomacy of peace. The second one is economic diplomacy. And the third one is public and citizenry-centered diplomacy. For peace diplomacy, I think I have talked a lot about our focus on collective security, our engagement with the United Nations, with the continent of Africa. So I think that is quite exemplary, and I will not spend a lot of time. I'll leave it for Q&A. Basically, we still believe that peace and security and solving problems amicably, peaceful coexistence are very, very important. So we give a lot of emphasis to peace diplomacy. The second one is economic diplomacy. Economic diplomacy, especially during the EPRDF regime, there was a lot of focus on it, and there were many achievements made. And, to an extent of dedicating a special department in the foreign ministry. As you know, many countries have territorial and sectorial departments in their foreign ministry. In ours, since the late 1990s, we had a dedicated economic diplomacy section. It has reached to the point where now it is led by a state minister. We have about 3 state ministers now, and one of them deals with economic diplomacy. So we try to attract foreign direct investment, technology. We focus on advancing fair trade, and then also we promote our tourism. These are the main 3 areas that we work on, because we are focused. I believe Ethiopia had fast economic growth in the past, more than a decade, and the result was partly also the diplomatic focus and engagement in this very particular area. And on public diplomacy, I believe many countries, whether they say that they have public diplomacy or not, they practice public diplomacy. But we have also, again, in the past decades, focused on institutionalizing public diplomacy by creating parliament-to-parliament links, city-to-city links, inter-university links, and links between prominent people. So I think this was a very important soft diplomacy that we are trying to nurture and strengthen. Along with it comes citizens diplomacy. Ethiopia, since after I can say after the military regime of Mengistu, there was a lot of flight of Ethiopians. That also includes brain drain. In the early 90s, there was a focus on, working with, the diaspora, and then finding a way, whomever, the diaspora, this is a small world, they can live wherever they want, as long as they are legally living in those countries. But also for those that don't have the chance to return, or for those that are interested to work back home, give back, and then also go back, there was a strong diplomacy to encourage that, to an extent of even for those that have taken their another nationality, providing them something that's equivalent to a green card in the United States. We call it yellow cards for them to come and work in a very comfortable environment. So there was a lot of focus on that. Now, with the new advent of the transition in the past 3 years, there was even a very huge focus on citizens diplomacy. It's not only about, you know, trying to help those that can return, but those that are in challenge, those that are refugees, those that are in problems, based on the Vienna Convention. You know, it's one of our responsibilities. So there is a lot of focus to engage in them and then to work together with the international community to address the root causes of migration. There is a lot of focus on that, and we work very succinctly on that. So my final point is our region, the Horn of Africa. And in the Horn of Africa, we have two major focuses. I have noted to you our major strategy. One of our major strategies is ascertaining peace and security. So in the Horn of Africa, we focus a lot in, you know, dealing with this important agenda. It's not a secret that the Horn of Africa is one of the regions that suffers from a lack of stability. So Ethiopia has tried all it can within the IGAD framework, and it has led the IGAD for some time, and many other brotherly, sisterly countries as well. Now the Sudan is leading the IGAD. So in that framework, we have tried to alleviate the problem of the South Sudan, together with our, you know, IGAD member countries. The terrorism problem I mentioned to you in Somalia. I think the Ethiopian contingent with the AMISOM has played a great role in stabilizing that region. And then also, I'm happy to say that the new Prime Minister in Ethiopia, one of the first diplomatic engagements he had was, you know, helping the Sudan through its transition with the African Union. So I'm sure some of you might have followed how our Prime Minister was received in the Sudan when the transitional government was established. So we have done our bit in that. You know, the IGAD, the regional body, was initially created to fight drought, and it was called desertification. It had 2 Ds before. Intergovernmental Authority for Drought and Desertification. But in the 90s, that has been changed into 1D. It focused only on development. The purpose of the IGAD goes beyond ascertaining peace and security, but because the region was so volatile, I would say the major focus was on ascertaining peace and security. But I would say we have done a great deal in terms of infrastructure linkages in the region, because we have one of the state-of-the-art standard gauge railway linked between Ethiopia and Djibouti. We have under the East African Power Pool, we are, I think, fairly well connected in terms of power. And in its current history now, Ethiopia is a non-littoral country in its history, so it is very much benefiting from the ports of its neighbors, especially the port of Djibouti, the port of the Sudan, and of course now recently the Lamu port is open for the southern part of the country. It will be beneficial, and I think we are doing well in energy diplomacy. Why? Because we are exporting clean energy to our surroundings. We've started out with Djibouti, then with the Sudan, and with Kenya, and beyond. So, you know, we are mainly a clean energy users. Of course, we need to do a great deal in, you know, electrification processes in our country. 65% of our population is still in the dark. So that's why also the reason why we are building the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam without causing significant harm to the low riparian countries. So I would say in the Horn of Africa, the 2 points are still essential: ascertaining peace and security, and then also making sure we are a strong building blocks in terms of economic integration based on the Abuja Treaty. The Abuja Treaty recognizes 8 building blocks in the continent, and IGAD is one of them. So I think let me stop that. I'm sorry if I have taken beyond, I must have taken a little bit time than it was allotted to me. I think it's good if I stop there and then give some time for our discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Julio, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for your talk, Ambassador, and also for your humbleness in saying that Ethiopia is not a powerful player in the African context. I think it is, and especially now with this new prime minister, and also with the current COVID situation, we also have Ethiopian nationals in the front lines. So I think Ethiopia, it's a important and relevant country. I would like to ask the question regarding your thoughts regarding economic integration in Africa. What your thoughts are on that subject? Yeah, if you can, please. Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask, Professor, would you allow me if I ask where students are coming from? Is this a normal thing to ask? Because I'm curious how many, you know.
No, I think it is a basic civility that you should know where the questions come from. We are.
Thank you, sir.
No, may I ask you?
So, Julio Rodriguez, may I have the honor of having which part of our world you're coming from?
Thank you again. I'm coming from Dominican Republic, and I think I'm included in one of the groups that you talked before of younger diplomats working in Brussels. Actually, I just arrived today in Brussels. So,
okay.
So your talk is a welcoming gift for me, and yes. So from Dominican Republic, thank you.
Thank you very much. We are in the ACP together.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you can repeat your question, or.
No, okay, shall I go one by one? I think we can take more questions. Yes. I'm clear about the question. He wants to know how the economic integration is faring. Yes. Shall I address this one, or there are more questions?
Yes, please. Yes, please, Ambassador.
Okay. Thank you very much, Julio. Question. Economic integration is a very important point that I mean, if we are talking about the world, I think we have been talking about globalization for long, and then there are many institutions that are trying to bring the world together, including the WTO and the United Nations, and of course the European Union is one good example for this. The African Union is, of course, but let me talk about my continent. We are gradually focusing on integration, and I think we are making it in a very good way, because first of all, we have building blocks the 8 regional groupings. These are RECs, regional economic communities. And then these building blocks will definitely form one important economic bloc, you know, with the, of course, the practical step of moving to integration. But I believe in 2020, we have succeeded in launching another successful mechanism to strengthen our continent's integration, and that is the AFTFTA, the African Free Trade. So this is the largest free trade area in the world. It brings together more than 1 billion people together. It is being initiated, the instruments are being worked at. We already have a headquarters that is in Ghana, in Accra, in beautiful Accra. And we have already selected a Secretary General. And, you know, for some time, have many nitty-gritties with, you know, the tariff, the customs, the non-tariff barriers and the likes. So those systems are being worked out with the African trade personnel. So I believe this will be gradually materializing. And the fact that the free trade area is created is one very, very good example. But I will not, it will be remiss of me if I talk of only the rosy parts of the integration situation. We are highly challenged with lack of infrastructure. If you see inter-African trade, intra-Africa trade is only 12% compared, maybe I think it is reaching to a little bit more now, compared to nations trade to the outside world. Why? Because our products are highly competitive. We need to value add to our products, and then we need to build the requisite infrastructure. You know, I'll give you an example of meat. In Ghana, I know because of the animal disease, although they have cattle, they suffer from getting the right kind of meat. So if we had a fantastic railway that crosses east to west, you know, that would have been easy and possible. Of course, we can use the Ethiopian Airlines, but as you know, cargoes are heavy, so you don't carry everything through the airline, but we can do flowers and others. So, you know, the requisite infrastructure development is key. That's why I mentioned, you know, as one of important tenets for integration in the Horn of Africa was the fact that we are integrating well by road, by rail, and this is essential, but it should not be limited to, if we say we'll have one economic society in Africa, I think the requisite is, among others, the infrastructure aspect, and we need to do that. And I think that it is within the African Union Agenda 2063 framework. It's about materializing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ilse?
Thank you, Nadia, and thank you, Your Excellency. Introducing myself, I'm from Latvia, and I'm currently working at the permanent representation of Latvia to the European Union. And thank you for giving this expose on Ethiopia's role in the continent. And I still couldn't help myself but to ask about maybe not an easy question, but I would appreciate your view and the position you can tell us about the Tigray region, we more or less know the history and what is happening there at the moment. But your government, how does it view, let's say, future solutions? What can you do? What can your neighbors do? Your friends in the region, and what about European Union? Very much appreciated for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lisi Delgalev. I did not pronounce your name right, for sure. But thank you for that very, very timely question for raising it. I think I think this group likes to do it one by one. So I'll go and answer this question, and then we'll go for the next one, if there is any. Thank you for this important question, Ilse. The situation in Ethiopia now is at crossroads. Since 3 years back, we are in transition. Since Dr. Abiy's government came, we have colorful stories to talk about in terms of creating modern day democracy, opening up the political spectrum, and improving, enticing legal frameworks, and allowing all oppositions, whether they are abroad or they are in the country, to take part in the political process. This has been happening for 3 consecutive years. Okay, now, what are our challenges? Challenges are with a very tightly neat and not very democratic system in the past 30 years, but of course with colorful economic achievements as well. It's various different stories that comes out in the past 30 years. People had to get used to a democratic dispensation. And in this, there are opposition parties that were even labeled as terrorists in the past, that were in prison in the past. They have had a chance to join this process, and especially to join this landmark election that is going to take place in June, on June 21. But at the same time, when this democratic dispensation was opened for everyone, there were also extremist elements that have joined this process. So this has created a very difficult situation in my country. So the problem in what happens in Tigray is, unfortunately, this vanguard party that was in the leadership for the past 30 years has decided to attack the National Defense Force. One, in a blue moon, once, one very good morning, decided to attack its own National Defense Force. So the very tenet of a government's existence is to ascertain sovereignty. So when your National Defense Force is attacked, you have to ascertain sovereignty. Unfortunately, this is within. So the whole problem had emanated from that. This law and order operation has managed to deal with effectively with the perpetrators. But now we do not follow undemocratic approach. Those perpetrators that are incarcerated are being brought to justice. And also we are faced with humanitarian situation because of this problem. The government is trying to do all it can to address the humanitarian situation. And also there were unfortunate happenings in our history where gender-based violence also has happened. The government has openly said that we have zero tolerance for this. An investigation has started both through the judiciary system and also through an independent human rights bodies. The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and the UN Human Rights Council are now, commission, are working together to, get through this, to the bottom of this, situation, and again bring the perpetrators to justice. Our Attorney General's office has issued last week a report of its preliminary assessment of the situation. So we are very optimistic that we are not in the best of shapes. I have to tell you, every nation goes through that right now, but we'll come through it. And one of the most important things is the fact that we will be able to run a free and fair election, and a legitimate governance is important. So we are strategic partners with the European Union, as you might know, since 2016. So we are engaging our European partners, both the commissions and member countries, to understand the situation in Ethiopia. And I believe there is a lot of understanding of the situation. And there is a lot of concern and worry for our country. I have said initially that we believe in the multilateral system. That's why we have allowed, when we see that there was a maladministration, especially on gender-based violence and the likes through this problem, that the United Nations Human Rights Commission has to come in and do the investigation. Of course, the African Human Rights and People Rights Commission is also invited. So I will tell you, we are in a challenge there, but I can promise you that we will surmount it, because Ethiopia, I've told you about our history. We had these colorful links with the outside world, but at the same time, we had a lot of problem and challenge, but it's a resilient nation. One thing I can assure you is that the people are closely knit, Ethiopians. We are intermarried, we work together, and from the university experience, I will not tell to the CERS people, because I'm sure they know, our universities are, a very good link to our societies, because, people come from east to west, west to east, north to south to go to universities. So this is our base that will, take Ethiopia forward, and then keep fingers crossed for the June 21 election. Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ambassador.
Thank you, Ambassador. I have a question from Olav Gad from Denmark. He wanted to ask a general question about how Chinese engagement and investment projects are perceived by policymakers and the general public, not just in Ethiopia, but in the region of neighboring states. Is it perceived as a driver for development and regional integration?
Thank you very much. Thank you for this very interesting question. The continent has many partners. I must start out by saying, and we cannot generalize it by the continent. Each country, because Africa is a group of 55 countries. Each country pursues its national interest in forging links. And I think the way China has been engaged in the continent is so amazing, because it was working extensively in building infrastructure, and it was putting a lot of investment, and it was creating trade, strong trade. So due to this, its engagement in the continent is very, very high. I had seen a study in 2006 from Stellenbosch University in South Africa. This was a study not by Ethiopians, but study from across. It's a very international university. They were saying, the West has to do the same, like what China is doing in the continent, or maybe in other parts of the continent, because they are doing infrastructure. Who would say no to infrastructure, and with a reasonable loan? And then the trade system is good, and their investment is risk averse. It's very strong. It doesn't. Investment usually is an animal of what needs comfort. Yeah, investors need comfort. But if you see the Chinese investors, they are a little bit different. They take challenges in investing in countries that are emerging. So this has given, I think, a cutting edge for China to take part in many parts of the economic activities in the continent. I think it's very visible. So this study was saying it was just selecting the tools of what China is doing and in what way, and what the West is engaging the continent, and in what is it lacking, what can it learn from. And when I was serving in the UK, I will tell you, the British were very wise in saying we have to partner with China in India, in our engagement in the continent. And they created one department, I remember, in the Foreign Office to do that. And then why? Because there are mix and match that can come together that create mutual benefits. And we say, you know, for example, let alone China, there are people that say, oh, investing in Ethiopia, will this bode well? No, they are very complementary. The Indians are focusing on a certain area and the Chinese are focusing on a certain area. And, you know, this can be mixed and matched. And I believe the Chinese investment, it depends from country to country on how a national entity is taking it. One thing for Ethiopia I can tell you is that we take investment, development, cooperation along with our national plan. We have a 5-year development plan. We have something that we do from our own, on our own capabilities, but we are a least developed country, imagine. But we are going to be a lower middle income country soon because our GDP has passed 1,000. And on the gaps, we try to fill in with partners. So we receive what we need. So whether our engagement is with Belgium or with the United Kingdom or with the United States or with China has to do with our national plan. So this is something very much that is aligned with ownership in Ethiopia, I can assure you. So we own what we partner with. So I've told you we are a non-aligned country. We want to engage partners. Look now, for example, the scholarships have flourished in Belgium, Ethiopian scholarships. And I just recently learned from the Ghent University that we provide, you know, we pay for PhD students. The Ethiopian government pays for PhD students in Ghent. And I think I don't want to mix the number, but it's not a small number. Why? Because we found the centers of excellence in Belgium are fantastic. So it's about, I think, a mutually beneficial need that brings countries together. This is, I'm just giving you an example from the Ethiopian perspective. I hope I have answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Gulefak, yes, please open your microphone. Your microphone, Gulefak. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Just of recent, your Prime Minister was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize. And considering the fact of fighting the Tigray region, there have been so many instances of abuse of human rights. And your situation in Ethiopia is just similar to that of Cameroon, when the southern Cameroonians, the English-speaking Cameroonians, revolted to secede from the rest of Cameroon. And according to you, was the military option the best way of handling the Tigray region? The second question is that following the project, the hydroelectricity dam, Ethiopia is engaged in constructing. And because of this project, it has created a lot of tension with your neighbors in the river in the Nile region, especially with the Egyptians. Are you sure the project will be realistic following the tension that is around the region? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gulefak. You are from Cameroon?
I'm from Cameroon.
Okay, my brother. Thank you for the question. Thank you. I just saw a text complimenting text. I thank for the text. I don't know who sent it. I thank you very much for your question. When it comes to the situation in our Tigray region, the military approach. I understand a little. I know I have many Cameroonian friends. I understand a little about the Cameroon situation, but here the very how do you call it? The problem had started when the Tigray, not the Tigray, the TPLF clique attacked the National Defense Force. That's where the problem started, you see? So the government was pushed into that. It was forced into protecting itself. And imagine if a national defense force is attacked, no nation will sit idly by. So this was the challenge that has taken us to this. But unfortunately, it is creating an image of as if there is, like, the language issue in Cameroon. There is an ethnic problem in Ethiopia. I tell you, I'm a believer. I'm also telling you as someone that has lived most of my life in Ethiopia, except the services that I do abroad when I am assigned. We have a very closely knit society. So the challenge will not be about language at all. No, that's not. There are many other things that links us together. Our religion is mostly the same. We have Christians, we have Muslims across, and there might be also non-believers. But by the way, 98% of Ethiopians are believers. They believe in whatever they believe. So the challenge probably might not be the same. It is about democratization. The fight is about democratization and how to democratize. I think this is the problem on how to embrace the new transformation. This is the challenge that Ethiopia is facing. And Ethiopia has experimented with ethnic federalism. That is the maximum. The Belgium system is like that. That's the maximum we can do. You can do. And then, has that helped us? Do we want to continue with that? The Constitution says our system is ethnic-based federalism. And the Constitution upholds that, and the nation has to uphold that, you see, because it's constitutional. But if the people think, okay, we can be a federal state, but the way we are doing it is not helping Ethiopia, it's up to the people. But as you know, any constitutional system has a way of being managed. You cannot simply supersede a constitution. At one point, Ethiopia has decided to be an ethnic federalism. Then if you want to change that, or if you want to improvise onto that, you have to come together and work as politicians, as society, and then the constitution itself has a provision on how to amend that. So I'm talking about the legal aspect. On the ground, my brother, I understand what you're saying. On the ground now, the government is doing all it can to stabilize the situation. And what gives you hope is not only what the government does. What gives you hope is that what the society does in helping each other, in mobilizing support, and in reaching out. And we cannot discount the humanitarian problem that our brothers and sisters are facing and the challenges that they have been faced with in terms of, I have said it many times, the gender-based violence and the killings and the likes. But we have to be happy that a legal system is instituted to find the perpetrators. Many countries this has happened, and there is the way that they have dealt with it, right? So we are trying to deal with that. So let me leave it at that, because otherwise I'll be deciding on something the society is to decide yet. So if I just give you the general point of view, that will. But I must have missed your first question. Maybe I didn't hear it properly. You were talking about the Prime Minister and the like.
Your microphone.
I think you are on mute.
Yeah. I talk about the Prime Minister that just recently he was awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize. And throughout your lecture, we've heard how Ethiopia has engaged in certain problems peacefully. I was saying that because of the military force that he used in going down the Tigray region, how can you assess, because there has been a lot of cases of abuse of human rights, how can you assess the manner in which your Prime Minister handles the problem, considering the fact that he was just recently awarded a Nobel Peace Prize? Then my second question was about the dam project.
Oh yeah, the dam. Okay, I'll do it quickly. Both of them, I'll do them. The first one, I've been alluding to since with the question with Ilse, and then also I think I tried to touch upon the cause of this problem. It's not trying to question anything with that has to do with the Tigrayan people. No, it is trying to control and correct, misdeeds of attacks of a national defense force. So the premise is this. It's not like ethnic groups have started to fight each other and this has come. No, the premise was that a national defense force of a nation was attacked. And then not any government can sit and idly by, and it has to correct those that have done it wrongly. Okay, in this operation, like you have said, we have not seen unfortunate incidents? Yes, we have. And believe you me, it was not at the initial stage when the operation was, when the government said it was complete on November 28th. Those problems have been perpetrated after that in the clearance process. So if the government was not committed to that region, it would not have spent billions and billions of Ethiopian birr in reconstructing. You can imagine telephone, electricity, airport, roads for a country like Ethiopia. We have spent more than 2 billion Ethiopian birr, excluding the medical aspect. So this is an unfortunate situation, but we were saying from the day one, there should be a democratic election and the leaders have to be selected by the people. And there was also a discord about this. I think this is also one other volume that will take the whole maybe evening in talking about. But in general, I wanted to reiterate to you, it's not as if the way it is depicted in the media and the like, that the government is trying to quash, the Nobel Peace Laureate is trying to quash. No, that's not the story. The story is otherwise. It was this group that was not interested to come together and discuss on the new dispensation of reform. It was just isolating itself. It was not taking part in the process. And finally, it was corroborating on attack of the defense force. This doesn't mean my brothers and sisters in Tigray. I've told you, language is not a factor in Ethiopia. We have many other things that brings us together. So you cannot distinguish me from my sister in Tigray. We are very much intertwined. We have so many things that brings us together. On the GERD issue, I've been telling you that Ethiopia in the past had a glorious past, in the past, long time ago, and we are underdeveloped now. So 65% of our population is in the dark. We contribute more than 86% to the River Nile. And we are just building a single dam. And we have alerted our brothers and sisters based on international principles from downstream countries to take part in these negotiations, to understand how this dam is being built without causing significant harm, and international principles. And Ethiopia is advocating for the fact that the legal regime of the Nile Basin has to be changed. It cannot be, the river cannot be only monopolized by 2 countries alone, because there are 11 riparian countries. And Ethiopia is producing, it's the source for the majority of the water. And this project is a hydropower project. It means it's not water consumptive. So, and then there are lots of benefits that brings to all downstream countries in terms of managing floods, and there are about 24 advantages. Of course, some universities also have studied it here. I was just listening, we've invited them to give us a talk on that. I think 2 universities studied and did propose. Of course, they are not talking about the immediate solution. So the solution for cross-boundary rivers, as it is in Europe or elsewhere, even in Africa, it's the only river that doesn't have a water commission. You see, if you have a water commission, then you have a legal regime that could, manage an equitable approach of the water system. So while Ethiopia is generating this much amount of water, if refraining it from building just a single dam, which is being built by the resource of the poor and the rich in Ethiopia, is not a fair justification. And then we follow the principle of not causing significant harm and equitable utilization of the water. So we are upholding international principles that are being used around the world. So I think this is what I can say in general. Thank you.
Ambassador De Bock.
Thank you. Ambassador, your introductory talk was, of course, very illuminating and opened a lot of questions which you were later on able to answer. And it confirms in my mind the importance of your country in that part of Africa, but in Africa in general. You are faced with huge economic, political problems, but you have managed throughout history to find answers. You are one of the most historic states, and you bring lots of resources to government and lots of intellectual, what should I call it, intellectual power to finding solutions. You were very open in the way you answered the questions, which were not always the most easy questions to answer. They went to the core of what Ethiopia is, the core of your policies, and you were very open in answering them, and very extensive in answering them. I'm very thankful for that. Having a diplomat, an ambassador, in this case, speaking to us, always entails some kind of a risk that we will have what is called in French langue de bois, and that is a language, a wooden language, not a substantive exchange of opinions on policy, on economics, but you engage openly in that, and I think we are all the better for it. I'm extremely thankful, and I'm very happy that you accepted our invitation, and I think the students in our last but one of our lectures this year will really have something to look back on as also as an example of what a top-ranking diplomat, an ambassador of a big country should be able to project as the image of their countries. It's part of our job, and I think you succeeded wonderfully. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. May I say that this occasion, as you know, a counterpart that have served his country as well, Ambassador, I would like to say to the upcoming young diplomats that there is nothing like serving your country. There is nothing like, you know, flying your flag abroad, and there is nothing like seeing things coming, you know, like tangible. It could be small cultural cooperation, it could be, you know, trade links, it could be cultural links, but, you know, I believe diplomacy is not, how do you call it, it's not hypothetical work, whether it's on peace and security, whether it's in development cooperation, whether it is in cultural exchange. It is something that gives you a chance to directly value add, to create relations and to do something for your country. So for those of you that think that this is your call, I want to ascertain to you, this is the best. And I would, if you ask me what else I would have done other than this job, I would say none. This is the best career that I have had in my life, and I thank God for that. I thank you very much for the opportunity, Ambassador, Director, Madam, and all those of you that have been here today.
Thank you. To our students, I will say we see each other tomorrow for our last course, last lecture. And this weekend is definitely an Ethiopian weekend because our lecturer tomorrow, again, is a well-known scientist from your country, and he will talk about Ethiopia. And I'm very proud to announce his presence with us tomorrow from 2 o'clock in the afternoon onwards. Don't forget to put on your best dress, your best suit, because we also have a class photograph tomorrow during that last meeting we have before we meet again during the examinations. So I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Have a nice Friday evening. Ambassador, again, thanks to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Let's enjoy this Ethiopian weekend to the full. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for inviting me here.
Ambassador.
All right.
And everybody have a great evening.
Thank you.
Ambassador.
And hasta el inicio.
Yeah, thank you.